Hola, bienvenido a Amor sin Fronteras. Encantada, mucho gusto. Me presento Eliana, soy la creadora de este espacio dedicado especialmente para mujeres que vuelan, mujeres expatriadas. Y este espacio donde hablamos realidades que hay detrás de la expatriación y que nadie se atreve a contar y que solo nosotras que estamos viviendo lejos de nuestro lugar de origen, pues vivimos las experiencias de estrés, de los papeles, de las visas, de las residencias, de no encontrar amigos a veces, de intentar aprender otro idioma nuevamente, de decidir dónde me quedo aquí o será que me vuelvo a mi hogar, de esta sensación de culpa que también cargamos constantemente por el hecho de haber dejado a nuestra familia o de sentirnos a veces muy privilegiadas y con respecto a nuestra familia o amigos. Todas esas cosas que nadie se atreve a contar sobre la expatriación, pues este es el espacio justamente dedicado para ti que has decidido viajar a otro país y rehacer tu vida nuevamente. Por eso las llamo las mujeres voladoras, mujeres viajeras de alma. Y pues en este espacio también me dedico a hacer entrevistas de parejas biculturales. Pues sí, porque solo estas parejas tienen un reto adicional, a una realidad adicional a tener en cuenta. Pueden haber también estos que se llaman estos choques culturales a veces que pueden llegar a generar algunos malentendidos y que esto solamente pasa en las parejas biculturales. Por esa razón, quise invitar a una persona que admiro muchísimo y ella es Esther y Iturralde con su pareja Brent. Esther y Iturralde para mí es una persona que se cruzó en mi camino cuando estaba en este proceso de sanación de un corazón roto. Si no sabes mi historia de sanación de un corazón roto, te dejo mis redes sociales, que ahí donde cuento más. Incluso hay todo un podcast, un episodio del podcast donde cuento como un poco más a detalle qué generó esto en mí cuando tuve esta ruptura amorosa viviendo en el extranjero. Y bueno, Esther se cruzó en el camino justamente y Esther es life coach y pues es la creadora de Epic Heart, de Epic Self y de la certificación Life Coach Sherpa. Una certificación donde hice mi certificación como Life Coach y que hoy en día pues ejerzo como también mi vocación que amo y adoro y me encanta hacer lo que hago realmente. En esta entrevista pues vamos a conocer la realidad un poco detrás de la pareja de Esther y Brent. Ellos nos cuentan cómo después de 12 años se reencontraron y se hizo realidad un poco a lo que se parecía un amor imposible, se hizo realidad. También nos cuentan un poco sobre estas anécdotas que a veces podemos llegar a pensar que como que hay algo malo en mí, pero en realidad también puede ser diferencias que de cultura, ¿no? Entonces te dejo con la entrevista de Esther y Brent. So tell me a little presentation of both of you. Who you are, how long have you been together, etc.
Okay.
You start or I start?
You start. Okay.
Okay, I start.
Okay.
All right. Well, at the present moment, I am living in Florida, but I am from Mexico City. The reason why I moved to live in the States is because I married this one 4 years ago. Our anniversary was actually 3 days ago or 2 days ago.
Happy
from that legal wedding, because we have 3 very important anniversaries, me and this one. But anyway, I am a life coach and I have a podcast. I'm writing a book. I'm pretty much self-employed. I spend a lot of my time alone in my apartment, just working. And I love what I do. Anyway, that's kind of like me and my normal day-to-day right now. But how I met this one was a totally different story. First of all, I feel like we met twice. We didn't meet just one time. So back in the day when I was 19 and he was 17, because I'm older, just a little bit older. He's always saying that I'm much older than him. But anyway.
Okay.
So back in the day when I went to this Christian internship, I met him through a friend and I liked him right away. It was like it was a very naive love at first sight. I was like infatuated and I had a huge crush on this guy right away. But I was living in Mexico at the moment. I was only going back for a quick vacation. And so my internship year was over. And, at the time there was no Facebook. I didn't have a cell phone. It was just hard. It was like either communicating over just email or maybe calling cards and just making the effort to call a number and all that jazz. So it wasn't really viable. And I just suffer in silence that I love this guy and that it was kind of like an impossible thing. I did try to keep in contact with him, but he was just kind of not really checking his email too often. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess it's not gonna work out. And I got over it and I moved on. And I had a boyfriend or whatever. I just kept doing my life in Mexico City. And I just kind of remembered him as the guy I really liked that didn't like me back. And eventually with Facebook, we reconnected, but it was kind of like a very shallow thing, like, oh, we're friends, but we never talked to each other. And then through the years, maybe we said happy birthday twice or something in like a decade. And eventually we reconnected. But before I keep going, it's your turn, baby.
Yeah, I mean, what you said is mostly true. We just met when we were very young and it seemed impossible to have a relationship. I thought she was very pretty, but Mexico may as well have been Mars. It just was so outside of what I thought was possible for myself. And so just kind of let her go, and not by her. She wasn't happy about it, but I let her go, and it was just whatever. Met somebody else, actually got married. I was married for 8 years, and it was just a really, really bad relationship all the way around. And after we decided to get divorced, Esther kind of came back into my life, and yeah, I mean, it was pretty, I don't know, it feels pretty simple to me, but I guess it was 12 years later, so it was a long time.
12 years later.
Yeah, and she'd been stalking me on Facebook this whole time, just really obsessed.
That is really not true, because
that always happens. Like, it's not true. It's not true.
Seriously, I was, the story about me healing my heart after this very bad breakup, right? And kind of like healing just my codependency and whatever went wrong and the wounds I had, and from being rejected or abandoned or replaced or all that like romantic drama from the past. I used to have a very strong story in my head that nobody chose me, that I was fine. That's what I thought. I'm like, I'm not too bad or too good. I'm just normal. I'm fine. I'm normal. Like, what's the word for just a regular girl? That's what I thought of myself. But I had the belief that because I was just so normal and regular, nothing's like special, nobody chose me, that I would always kind of like feel attracted by this person that never saw me, right? And then the people
for you was really normal that he doesn't see you.
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't think that I had like bad self-esteem, which it sounds like that's very bad self-esteem. But in my mind, I was like, no, I'm just normal. I don't feel like I'm ugly, but I'm just so normal that I don't stand out. That's what I thought. And the people that actually liked me, I didn't like back. So it was like this thing where I was like, the ones that are interested in me, I don't like them. And the ones that I like them, they don't like me. So nobody chooses me. And either I settle or I stay alone. That was kind of like a fear that I had in the back of my mind. I didn't understand it quite yet. It was just kind of like this blur that it was just kind of like a feeling.
Okay.
You know, I didn't know it with the clarity that I know it now, but that was kind of like what I was feeling. And so I was healing and changing and processing and learning and, you know, everything that you know about me.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, you know what? Like, I don't want to have these beliefs anymore. I want to change this. I want to improve myself. I want to become the person that I know I can be, you know, that it is special, that I am like interesting and I am like an asset and I am an incredible like girl to date, you know. And I started really believing that. And then eventually I was like, I'm ready to find the true love of my life. I'm ready to date again. Huh?
Mhm.
And I did my vision board, I did all this stuff and all this work and all these letters, you know, all this cleaning my self-conscious and just cleaning my you know, my beliefs about what I deserved.
Yeah.
And eventually, when I was like really waiting for him, this guy started poking me on Facebook.
This is true.
Yeah, it is true.
Like, really? No. But I want to know just a thing, because we know about the community of Esther. We know that all this process that Esther has done about healing her heart, etc., changing her beliefs. And I don't know if by your side, Brent, because you told me you get divorced, and at the same time you made a kind of also a healing, or I don't know, maybe that happens that, well, you get divorced, you say it was a really bad relationship, and maybe you say, no, I'm not ready to get into a relationship. How do you make this kind of change to get open to maybe to this new girl?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So so at the time of my divorce, I didn't want to get divorced. I was even though we just weren't good for one another, and my ex-wife didn't really like me at all. We were in counseling, and I can't say enough for professional counseling, somebody actually who knows how to make sense of your feelings and what's what and has some training. Very, very beneficial for me. So a lot of it was self-work that I was doing while I was still married. Just learning about myself, learning why I did those, you know, do the things that I do, why I don't do the things that I don't do, what makes me happy, what doesn't make me happy, that sort of thing. That kind of gets worked out in counseling. And it's not revolutionary or new or any, it's just the kind of the basic vanilla counseling that you get, right? Well, when my marriage did end, like you said, you're like, what makes you want to get back out there? I didn't at all, not even a little bit. I was like, cool, I'll be single for the rest of my life. I'm going to go down this different path. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be me and my wiener dog, and we're going to go and we're going to have adventures. And then that's it, you know? And then Esther came back into my life, and it was like, well, I mean, she's very cool, but you know, I have these very strict things that I want for myself. And I kind of, we were talking about this the other day. I kind of threw out the ultimatum. Hey, this is what I'm going to do with my life. If you're not on board with it, we should just not, you know,
to Esther. Okay.
In those words, like, that's not
It's not negotiable.
yeah. I'm like, nope. Like, this is what I want for my life. I'm sick of, you know, putting everybody's needs before my own, which is terrible.
And what was your reaction, Esther, about this when this guy said to you, this is what I want?
Well, he's skipping over some other stuff, because when we started talking, he was incredibly sweet. Like, he was super nice. He was sending me poems. Yeah, you were. I have them all. I have a folder in my phone, Eliana, where I have screenshots of our conversation from 2015 when we started talking.
But baby, you're mixing up the timeline. So,
well, it was kind of like at the same time, baby. When we started talking on FaceTime every day.
I'll tell you the real story. So what happened was, so we started talking, and then I had just gotten out of this relationship, and it was really fresh. And so I had these ideas for myself, and I was like, this is what I want. And then we started talking, and she was prettier than ever and more successful than ever. And I knew that this could be something that was very attractive to me. But I was more committed at that point to what I wanted for myself. And so when we started talking, before I started getting romantic at all, it was, hey, this is what I want for myself. If you're not on board, then we should not go down this road at all. And she's like, no, I think that's cool. I think that's interesting, right? And so,
okay.
And so then we kept talking. No, it's my turn. So then we kept talking, and just like over FaceTime or whatever. I want to say pretty casually. It was kind of casual, but it was like we were still talking every day. You know, Esther's a very interesting person. I think everybody knows that. So I'm like, well, tell me more. Tell me more. You know, it's very interested in her. Just, I mean, even aside from romantically, just like as a human, you know, she was very, very interesting to me. And I like getting to know people's stories, and she has a pretty good one. And she likes talking a lot. So you guys probably know that too. So she never ran out of material. And through talking, she really kind of got into my bones a little bit, because a lot of the things she said, a lot of the things that, as our feelings for one another started to grow, really redeemed a lot of the things that were wounds from my previous relationship. And that's when I started feeling very, you know, romantic, and started writing her stuff that she swore she would never talk about, but you know.
What?
Well,
All right, so
yeah, totally.
okay, but there's another side of the coin here, because even though I was quickly in love with this one, very quickly, I did have like the time to wonder if he was really like somebody that I wanted to invest my time in, because I had done so much work in me to heal, and I really wanted to find somebody that could actually be with me, you know?
Yeah.
And so right now it was kind of like embarking into like long distance and all this stuff. It was gonna be jumping through all these hoops to be together. And I was ready to find somebody that lived in my city that could have dinner with me tonight and tomorrow night, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, ooh. And I had a few bad experiences with like Tinder people that I dated. And
What? No, okay.
and I got, you know, I talk about this in my podcast. Like I got ghosted twice by two guys I really liked, you know, and I was like, oof, like this is not gonna happen to me again. This guy had already rejected me once years before.
Okay.
So I was kind of like in a better place, because I felt prettier than ever and smarter than ever, like, you know, holding my ground better than ever. But at the same time, I was a little bit like, Esther, don't go face forward. Be a little careful, you know? But at the same time, I couldn't not talk to him, you know? I was trying to go slow, but at the same time, I wanted to see how I felt, what he had to say, how he responded to the things that I was into. And just as he was giving me this kind of like putting the cards on the table, like I'm going to helicopter school, it's gonna take this time, I'm gonna move to this other city, I cannot ever leave in Mexico, you know, that kind of thing. I was like, well, I was okay with that, and I was totally just normal when he told me that. But in the insides, I was like checking my list, you know, of like my non-negotiables. And I was like, okay, well, I said I wanted to be with somebody that I admire. Well, in order to admire somebody, that somebody has to have passions and dreams of his own, you know? If he doesn't have that, this probably not gonna last. So even when he was kind of like setting his ultimatum, it was actually a good thing for me because it showed me character. It showed me, that it wasn't going to be a relationship like my last one where we were like, I can't do this because you don't do that. I can't do that because you don't do this. So I resent you and we are stuck, And so I was like, well, okay, that's a good thing. Even though there's so much hoops, but at the same time, it kind of feels like in the long run, this is a good thing. Because if you love what you do, in the future, we're going to be a better match, even though right now it's going to take time, money, effort, right? And so that's kind of how I was kind of like seeing everything.
When she put her own ultimatum down too, because like when we were talking, she was like, kind of out of the blue one day, she's like, hey, where do you see this going? And I was like, and I mean, this is very early when we were talking. I'm like, I don't know, like I'm having a good time talking to you. I'm like really interested in you. She's like, okay, cool. Because like, I don't want to be your friend. And I was like, what?
Both of you was like, I know what I want. Both of you, as I saw the thing, is like both of you knows what she doesn't want it and knows what she wanted, and you also, Brent. So it was like a really like match on this moment. How you manage both of you this kind of, okay, I like this girl, I like this, I find her interested, but she's not here because, well, Esther said she was in Mexico, Brent was in the United States, etc. It was a long distance relationship. How you manage that, Brent?
For me, it was, I don't know, the long distance thing was at the beginning was easier in a way because it gave me time to be by myself. I'm very introverted typically. And not to say I don't do well in social situations or I don't love my friends. It's just, especially during that heavy period of my life, I needed to be by myself a lot, right? and really think things through and have time to heal and have time to just sit with myself, to think on what I wanted and where I wanted to be and who I wanted to be, and what it all meant, that kind of thing. And so during that period, the long distance was pretty good. It was, I could see for a couple hours on FaceTime each day, but I still had my own space. And moving forward, because the long distance thing was a challenge. It was absolutely a conversation. I was like, so what are we gonna do with this whole you there, me here? Like, I had never left the country ever. And so like international travel it seemed very like just like this big thing for me. And she's like, well, you're not a tree. Like, you're not planted there. If just move. Like we can come visit each other. We can.
So even though of course I wanted somebody that I could see every day because I was very eager to enjoy my newfound love, at the same time, I shared the whole thing about just having time on our own, because at the time I was building like the foundation of my business. I couldn't have, everybody asked me, Eliana, like, how did you do it? How did you create so much content? Epic Card and Epic Self and Money Mindset and Tapping and the podcast and blah, blah, blah. Because I had him, but I didn't, It's like, because he was in my life, I didn't want to go out anywhere anymore. I was like, I don't need to. I have found him, I didn't want to know anybody. I wasn't dating, right? And so I was at ease because I knew I had the men in my life, the men that I wanted for my life. But at the same time, I had my space and I had my apartment and I had my lights and my computer and my camera and my cats. And I was set to just create content, build a foundation for my business, knowing that I was going to see him soon in our next trip. And another thing that was very key to our long relationship lasting is that I think that we truly understood how we express and receive love. And for me, and this is about the 5 love languages for whoever wants to read that book. But anyway, the point is that I like physical touch. In long distance, impossible, right? But my second love language is words of affirmation. And he was always willing to be there on FaceTime with me for 2 or 3 hours a day. And it was easy. It wasn't something that I demanded, or it wasn't something that I was like begging for or something. It was just normal. Like, are you there? I'm calling every night, you know? Sometimes it would be kind of like he would be falling asleep or something at the end or whatever, you know, but it didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel like a chore or something that I was pushing him to do. It was just kind of like, it felt normal. It felt easy. It felt needed by both sides.
Well, and early, she was like, she's very good at these like coming out of nowhere questions. Like, look, I don't want to be friends, you know? So she like one day she was like, so what's your love language? And I was like, what? And she was like, you know, like the 5 love languages, and I am familiar. And I was like, gifts. And she told me words of affirmation. So it's like, I don't know, you know, if you care about somebody and you want to see something grow, it's like giving one another an instruction booklet on how to make that happen. No.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that quality time was really important to her, and that words are important to her, in absence of physical touch. Well, and we were just getting started. So like physical touch, it was like, it can be a sticky situation when you're, you know, when all the passion is brand new. So it's, you know, it was easy. It's like, well, if I'm starting to care about her and I want to kind of foster something here, it's not hard to give those things. And she sent me stuff, and so it was fun.
Yeah.
And how it happens, because, well, it was kind of this kind of the beauty thing of the long distance ship, because it's true, I never passed for this experience, but it's really, really interesting what we're talking about. But once you have the opportunity, like, to be together most time, how change the dynamic of the relationship? Because Esther came to the United States, etc. So it was kind of difficult.
I do want to say something quick before that, because another thing that I really, really liked about him that made me very confident in the long distance relationship is that he was very fast to act. And so to visit wasn't hard at all. It wasn't like something that we overanalyzed or overplanned. It was like often, we saw each other very often for a long distance relationship. Rocket. And he like the first time that we saw each other, it was like, hey, I'm going to Chicago. Do you want to come? And he like 5 hours later, he's like, I got my plane ticket, you know? And it wasn't like something that I had to push or plan together or maybe work the numbers. It was just like quick and easy. And then he was like, hey, do you want to come to Mexico for a little bit? And he's like, yeah, I'm coming for 2 months, you know? And I'm like, okay, you know? So that was very assuring for me, because I was like, man, that's fresh. Like in my past relationships, planning for something was always such a headache. Like, can we do it? Can we not do it? When is a good time? Monday, Friday? I don't know. Let's not talk about it, you know? And so this was very fresh to me. It felt like, oh, that's a man that takes action and doesn't have to consult every single thing. And so that was very good for me. And also, it happened that I had so many weddings to go to, like all the weddings, all my friends were getting married, and he was coming to all of them. He would come only for the wedding. He would travel And one night before, then the wedding, next day he would leave, and he didn't miss one. And so I just always.
Have you ever been to a Mexican wedding? You don't miss them. They're a great time. They're so much fun.
They're so much fun.
Yeah.
And so, and this big event, right? And he was always like, yeah, I'm coming. And even if he had to take like maybe 1 day or 2 days off school because of the travel day, and the wedding was in the weekend, and the wedding wasn't in the city, it was in the beach or something that we actually had to, he got there and we needed to commute or something. But he wasn't like telling me it's impossible, or I don't want to do it, or it's too much, or I can't. He was making it happen. You know, I was like, we have this wedding and this person is my friend, so we kind of have to go. And he was like, okay, you know. And so that is not common to find in a long distance relationship. It's usually like we see each other every 6 months, you know, and it's this big drama. And so he was coming for like short periods of time, but very often. And I was able to go for like 1 week, 2 weeks, you know, a little bit longer sometimes, because I could work from anywhere. So we actually had just kind of like a very good balance with like the visiting each other.
But like what you're saying, as far as like once you see each other, right? So when in the long distance relationship that we had, whenever we would visit one another, it was like, we're talking on FaceTime, we're talking on FaceTime. There's like this big buildup. Oh my gosh, you're going to be here tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. You're here. This is awesome. Total vacation relationship, you know, like we're going to go see this.
Cool.
And we're going to go
Vacation relationship. I love that.
yeah. I mean, like, just like all thriller, no filler, none of the, you know, all fireworks, doing all these things, seeing all these things. All right, bye. You know, and then she leaves or I leave. And then we settle back into this FaceTime relationship. And so it was like, definitely not like there was any time to kind of get sick of each other, you know? And so then when I went to Mexico for 2 months, we had been dating for a little bit at this point. And I'm looking at her like, okay, this girl is really into me. I'm really into her. Like, is this something I can spend a lot of time with, maybe the rest of my life with? Is this somebody? And so now I'm looking at her through this microscope during this 2 months while I'm there, like, you know, could I live with that? You know, oh, she's a little bit loud. Can I live with that? You know, like just microscope every little thing. And it was not good. You know, like it was bad. And so I went and spent the day with one of her friends, actually the guy who did our wedding ceremony. His name's Josh Harder. Very, very smart guy.
He married us. He was the pastor of the Christian church.
Cool.
Yeah, so I went to spend the day with him. Really, really, really cool guy. And he's like, you know, asking me, so like, what do you think of Esther? Blah, 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 you know. And I'm like, well, she's really great, but, you know, we're getting into the routine, and I don't know. He goes, and he looks at me, he goes, you're trying to think if you can spend the rest of your life with her, aren't you? And I was like, maybe, you know, like, yeah. And he was like, stop it. He's like, you're gonna rob yourself of the time you have here. Like, there's plenty of time later to figure out if you want to be with her forever, but just be in the moment, settle in, have a good time. And then at the end of this 2 months, if you decide that it's not going to work, then it won't. But if as long as you're looking at everything through a microscope and seeing like, can I live with this forever? Can I live with this forever? Can I live with this forever? You're going to find stuff that you don't like or that's annoying you, and that's all you can see now.
Mm-hmm.
So just let it happen. Breathe. Take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and you'll be fine.
Just how did it happen when the Stars arrived to the United States? Because I know, because this is my girls, expat girls. So how did it happen? Because, well, Stars was in a new country after all these visa things, etc., the difficulties to have the visa, the residency, the social, the green card, the green card, and I don't know, you was missing Mexico, etc., the new country, new language, etc. how you manage all that, Esther?
Well, I always liked the US. Like, it's not hard for me to live here. When I was little, when I was 18 or whatever, that I went to the internship for a year, it was a bit of a culture shock, and I was mentally exhausted from speaking English. But eventually I managed, and since then it never was as hard, you know. It was just kind of like, I know what it's like. I know that, I know that I can speak the language. I just need to get very confident. And if I say something wrong or whatever, it doesn't matter because it's my second language. It doesn't mean I'm stupid or anything like that anymore, you know? At the beginning, I was very like afraid of ordering like a burger in McDonald's because I don't know how to say it, you know? But now I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to say it the way I say it, and it's probably going to work out, you know? But anyway, the only one thing that I think was kind of hard after I got the green card was that sometimes with some of his friends, I just didn't feel quite accepted. And that was kind of weird for me because all my friends are very warm and inviting, love him so much, you know, that every time he was visiting, everybody's like, we need to see Brent. We need to hang out because we need to know him better, love him more, get to know him more, you know, have fun with him, you know, because he is coming to Mexico and everybody's so excited. And there's like this automatic part in my mind that expected the same treatment. And that would get very like insecure.
Well, and that's a very cultural thing. So like what she's referring to is, so when I went to Mexico, and I met her friends, they treated me like I was a famous person. They're just like, I walked in the room and they're like, oh my gosh, tell us everything. What a great story. You're so fun. And I'm just like, okay, like, you know, like, am I famous? Like, you know, like it was crazy. Like, I was just like, this is amazing. I am the most interesting person in the world. You know, like, it's just like, holy cow, you know, and they were just wonderful. You know what I mean? Apparently that's cultural. They do that with everybody. So it's not just
and
me.
That I'm actually famous. I come here, nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly. So in the United States, it's way more common, especially with younger people, to just like a new person comes in and they just join the group, you know, like you have
the person who has to join the group.
Right, exactly. Rather than the group coming around this new person, tell us everything. It's like that person just kind of joins the group and is like, you find out about them little by little, you know, you're joking around, you're having fun or whatever. And so Esther walks in the room, she's like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Ask me.
Ask
me questions or whatever. And then all my friends are like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. So anyway, you know, like and she's like, these people are rude. They don't care. I hate all your friends. Get new ones, you know, like I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, it's a cultural thing. Like, you know, like I love your friends and it's awesome. And the way they do it in Mexico is much better. I mean, I can recognize that, but this is just how it's done here.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
so that was the big thing. The other big thing, I know she was having a good time.
But at the same time, it was kind of like an inside struggle, Eliana, because I understood the cultural differences. I know like Mexicans like went to kiss him and hug him and all this stuff. And I know Americans don't do that.
Yeah, she actually prepared me for that because I don't like to touch anybody. So except for her. She's like, look, they're going to hug you in case you don't freak out. And I'm like, how are they going to kiss me? Is it going to be on the mouth? You know, like, oh my God.
Imagine that your head like what all the Mexican things in there.
But what I wanted to say is that I understand the rational part of we're different, join the group, it's not personal, chill. I understand that. But something in me was just sometimes was just feeling very uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how to join in. I don't know how to joke around. It just feels like it's not gonna happen. That I don't know what they're saying. It's very inside jokes. And, and I was just feeling very uncomfortable. Like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I leaving my awesome environment to come into a hostile one? That's kind of how it felt in my heart. And so that was a struggle, from understanding to actually knowing.
Yeah, exactly.
Just being okay with it. I feel like right now I am fine with it. I understand.
Well, used to it.
I have less expectations. I have developed thicker skin to that, and I'm fine. But at the beginning, if you ask me what was the struggle, that was kind of like when I felt very like just uncomfortable, insecure, unwanted. That was kind of the hardest of all, to like start moving here and all that.
And then when she moved here for me, because Mexican culture is so much warmer than American culture, one, and two, because Esther was very in love, and I was very in love with her, but this focuses on her love for me. And three, the fact that she's a very close person, right? I felt like she was like here like the whole time, like. And so it was like, I'd be like brushing my teeth like this, because she'd be like, right.
Hey.
Yeah, exactly. And it was fine. It wasn't something that was like, what's wrong with you? It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, I had to ask her, like, baby, a little bit of space here, please. I need a little bit of space for myself. And I'm very introverted. I'm very, don't touch me to anybody but her. I'm very like, I like my things. I like, and she's not. She's like, let me get that for you. And she's like brushing my teeth from over here, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, and so it was, so that was a hard adjustment, I think, because Esther took that harder than I thought she would. Just, you did. And I was just like, look, I love you, but we can't be doing this. Like I'm going to grow to resent you if you don't respect some of the boundaries that I put out. Like, when I go to the bathroom, you're not gonna walk in, like, just like basic boundaries that like a lot of couples don't like. That's not important to a lot of people, like whatever, we live together, we for me that's an important boundary. When I take a shower, it doesn't always need to have you in it, like when we yeah, this is news to her.
This is news to me.
We just don't need to always be on one another, and I think that was hard, especially considering her first love language is touch or whatever. But it was a bit of an adjustment, but that we didn't have to deal with at first because it was long.
How do you do it just to deal with that? Because we have a person that is touch and the other person like, give me my space.
It's just, here's the thing. It depends on the time, actually, because sometimes when he's stressed out or just arrived from work or something like that, it's when he needs a little bit of space. And I have come to kind of like read into his vibe, like his energy whenever he's like that. And I'm like, fine now, like, I don't care. But the reality is that like we're watching TV and I'm always over him, always,
Yeah.
and he's totally fine with that. The moment I'm not, he's like, what's wrong? Why are you over there?
Because I know when she's not, there is something wrong.
But you know what I mean? Like he has become used to that. And whenever I'm not doing it, he's kind of like, and now I'm like, okay. And I go over, and I'm like, nothing is wrong, look,
Yeah.
and I'm back in his lap, all the time.
Again, like I do really love her touch and stuff like that. It's just respecting those boundaries. So she's like, I've learned on my own without any prompting from him that like, when he gets home from work, I need to give him a little space. Yeah, it was an argument. So because I used to come in the door and check it out. So I'm the first person she sees like in real life most days.
It's been like
most days because she works wherever. That means she works from home, right? Most days I'm the only human she sees,
like in person
all day.
It's true.
And because of that, when I walk in the door, she's like, oh my God, a person, like, let me tell you about all this stuff that happened. I'm having this awesome success. I'm struggling with this. What's going on? Tell me. And I'm just like, I've dealt with people all day. I'm a little bit of an introvert. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm getting just a wave crash over me as soon as I get through the door. And I have to figure out, like, I love this person, but I really want her just to stay away from me, right? But not forever. Like and so I had to figure out what was going on, and then put it in a way to her that's not like, that doesn't seem like a rejection, because it's not. It's just a boundary.
That is interesting. It's really interesting. Tell me, Esther, you want to say something?
I wanted to say something, because all of this, of course, is true, but at the same time, like, we all have different rhythms, no? And even though I'm very like, I tell him all the time, he's my favorite human in the world,
and she's like top 3 for me.
So
the different rhythms.
oh yeah. So he is my favorite human in the world, but also, like, sometimes I like cats better than humans. So I'm kidding. No, but the point I wanted to make is, even though he's my favorite human in the world, sometimes I'm feeling like very loving and social, but that's not me 100% of the time. Sometimes I'm anxious. And sometimes I'm like worried about something that I'm planning, or something that I'm launching, or just like drained from coaching sessions. And sometimes I just don't feel like that. I just kind of want to be close to him, and that's it. Sometimes I can't really talk about complicated things, like, for example, in the mornings, he's very chatty in the mornings. I'm very active. And I want him to shut up and stop making noise, and turn down the TV and close the door, and don't ask me weird questions, or don't make me talk in English.
Don't ask me any questions.
Yeah, so don't think that I'm always like this, like squirrel trying to climb him, because no, that's not the case all the time.
Yeah, no, the only reason that might come out is just because that's been a friction point that we've learned to adapt to one another, and really one of the only friction points, right? So it's not like she's insufferably all over me all the time. It's just and then the morning thing is, she's like a super night person. I'm a super morning person. I wake up at like 5 or 6 every morning. Like,
the other day, I woke up at 4 and he was not in bed.
Okay.
And I'm like, what is he? Where is he? But anyway, the point is that in the mornings, I don't want complicated conversations, and I don't want noise, and I don't want to have sex. I don't, and so it's just one of those things that I just developed this anxiety when I have to get up early, or get ready fast, or decide what I want to do, what I want to wear, where I want to go, who I want to hang out. I can't do that.
So because I'm a super morning person, and that's my time, And so this kind of little friction point came up, because I'm like, I wake up early. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do today? Like, let's
and
talk to me. Like I've been thinking about it, and she's like, shut up. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I'm just waking up, She would tell me all the stories about when she was a kid and her parents were dragging her out of her bed and shoving a tortilla in her pocket and sending her to school, and and so I had to learn, because like I had to learn how to balance the fact that this is the time I'm excited. This is like when I walk through the door at the end of a long day and you're so excited to see me, it's the same thing, right? I will wake up, I'm so excited to see you, or so excited about what we're about to do that day, or excited because it's our day off, or for any number of reasons excited just because it's the morning.
And I'm like,
And she's like, so I had to learn to how I could still love her in that moment without annoying her, like without being over the top. So I do stuff like I try to make sure she has like coffee or tea or both when she wakes up on her bedside table.
that's actually one of the things that make me feel loved the most, especially when he brings me both. I wake up and I have a coffee and a tea in the Sherpa mugs that warm forever.
Yeah.
So even though, like, sometimes my tea and my coffee have been there for 3 hours when I wake up, but they're still warm. And so I'm like,
beautiful, because you find a balance, because there's the opposites as everything, but you find the balance. So you say, okay, I accept you, and start, okay, this is not my thing, but we find a solution. And as you tell Brent, as you said, Esther, there's a lot of it's like, I don't know, maybe a lot of people think the other person has to be like almost like the same as me, but it's not the case. It's not the case. This is the relationship. It's like a kind of find of the balance. And sometimes you find the opposite of you, and you have to find the balance of that. And the next question that I want to ask you, this is different. This is different because most of the time I ask another question, but for you, I will see this is different. How do you know that she was the one, and how do you know that he was the one?
I don't think that there's a one. I don't believe that at all. I think that there are definitely some terrible ones. There are definitely lots of no's, but as far as the yeses, it's just you have to see in the person the thing that you want to be with forever, right? So I know Esther could be with lots of people, probably people that might be like sharing her interests more and stuff like that, but she wants to be with me because of the things that she sees in me. I want to be with her because the things I see in her, like the things I see in her are ambition. Like she has like these huge visions for things that I don't get at all at first when she says she's going to do something, and then she goes and does it, and it just blows my mind. And I respect that so much about her. And she's so creative in the way she approaches it, and she just so persistent. Like I respect that so much in the way that she loves things and people and animals even. It's just something that's very, very attractive to me, right? She didn't do a lot of things that that I didn't like. So I'm like, yeah, you're the person that I choose, but it's more about like a choice.
Okay.
I think everybody's looking for the one, like it's like this magic pill that's going to heal them inside or make them happy finally. And it's just not the case. Like deciding that somebody is the one comes from a place of self-satisfaction, like I'm okay with who I am. And so then it's going to be okay to put this other person in my life, and they may not be perfect and I may not be perfect to them, but I choose them and I'll continue to choose them. And it's somebody that you can continue to choose. That's what makes somebody okay for the other person. Esther had all these qualities in her that I really, really respected, that I really, really liked. Okay. She had one of the biggest things is she has this why not quality. Like when she decided to be like this podcaster and life coach and all this stuff, she's always like, why not me? I should go do this. And they seemed like these big things to me. And I'm like, well, okay. And then I watch her just go and do them. Like, I'm just like, wow, that's so crazy. I want to travel here. I want to go to do this thing. I want to do this thing. Why not me? Why not me? And that kind of thing is just like, it blew my mind. You know, I want to be part of that. I want to. I don't know, it's kind of rambling.
Well, for me, I don't know if I believe that there's a one. I think I don't, and I do at the same time, because I don't, because of the conventional reasons. I don't feel like we were predestined or something like that since the beginnings of time. But at the same time, I think I do, because I feel like I knew it, you know? I knew it since 12 years before getting together, you know? I had it right, you know? I knew we were gonna be a good match. And so that makes me feel like, yeah, it was totally, like, I was so wise, you know? I was so wise. But at the same time, come on. But and at the same time, it's like, because I know that is him, because we didn't have to force anything. That doesn't mean that it wasn't hard, or that we didn't have to be persistent and kind of like kill our ego many times, you know? Every time he tells me like, I need a little space, it's like, in order to be okay. No, in order to be okay and not kind of like be bitchy, I need to kill a little bit of my ego, you know? I'm like, this is not about my essence. This is just about the moment and the energy levels, and that's it. So I'm like, Esther, don't freak out, you know? And the same thing with him. Sometimes there's things that I push him to, and he's very like, sometimes, and I bet that he does the same to his ego or his fears or whatever, right? And so, but in the important things, we didn't have to force it. I didn't have to force my values or my personality or my body or something to make him like it, you know, accept me, love me, affirm me. Like, I didn't have to do any of that. It just felt like just normal acceptance, normal like love and patience and wanting to be with each other. So that to me feels so rare to find, that I feel like he's the one, because believe me, I try to find something like that, and it was very, very, very hard. So I don't think there's a better match for me than him. I don't know if that makes me a believer of the one or what, but the point is that I think that he's my favorite human, and I have him as a partner. There's nobody that I want to share my most valuable things with, you know, like, yeah, like my ideals, my heart, my feelings. Like, I really feel safe with him, and I don't think that's an easy thing to find, you know?
I think the reason I push back on the idea of like the one is because if you feel like you found the one, that now you're stuck with them. You know, like
He kind of is.
Yeah, I'm definitely stuck with it. But no, like, I found the one, so now I have to be with that person. Now I'm trapped with that person.
Okay.
And so now you're starting to look at them through this microscope again, kind of like what I was doing in Mexico City when I first, and like, can I live with this? Can I live with, oh, they need to change that. They're the one. So they have to change that. I can't live with that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know? And because of that, like, you start to nitpick the one in your life, and it kind of, and it falls apart. It just does. Divorce is way too easy, you know?
Yeah.
as a ripcord. And so the idea of, oh, you could be with anyone, I could be with anyone, but I choose you. It's giving you agency in that relationship, saying, I always have a choice, and I'm going to choose you every time. I always have a choice, and I'm seeing what you're doing, and instead of being like, oh, I have to live with this, it's saying, hey, let's work on this together, because I know you have choices and I have choices. I want to be a better person for you. I know you want to be a better person for me. Then it makes the toil part of a relationship, the hard part of a relationship, the work part of a relationship so much easier. because I know she always wants to choose me. She knows I always want to choose her.
And I have something to add there, like a very good example. I know that one of the things that he values about me, and it's kind of one of his non-negotiables, is that I am willing to try things. I'm willing to be brave and try things, right? He values that. If I was like not willing to try anything new or anything that scared me, he wouldn't feel, in that moment, he wouldn't feel attracted to me, and that would take away from him feeling like he's with the right person, right? And so I just make sure that I remain in that vibration, as a being that is brave and willing to try things and willing to own my shit and willing to heal my ego and willing to be fun and willing to, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so with us, it's not only the cultural difference or whatever, it's also the hobbies. We have very different hobbies. And so we share some in common. No, we love going out to eat. Perfect. Nobody's out of their comfort zone when we go out to eat or to happy hour. We love it. Great. But I married somebody that does everything that scares me. Everything. Right? And so I know that if I don't go skiing with him because I'm too afraid or too afraid, then he's gonna be like disappointed, he's gonna be like, but come, give it a try. And if I don't give it a try, if I don't give it my best, if I don't dare a little bit to push back on my fears, I stop being that person, I start changing. I start being less adventurous, less brave, less interesting, less fun. He respects me less because I know that he respects that, So a lot of couples kind of fall in love with a mask. I am being brave at the beginning of the relationship. I'm being fun at the beginning of the relationship. But now that we have been married for 4 years, I don't want to try that. I don't want to go there. I don't want to get dirty. I don't want to blah, 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 right? And then it's like, well,
you set me up. Yeah.
all the things that I loved about you that made me believe that you were the one or the right person for me, you're not anymore, Yeah. And so I just remain being that person that knows how to vibe in that wave, And for him, it's like he did the same thing to me. Like he was being super romantic. I never got poems before, And so I expect that kind of thing through the years, And he does. It was just our anniversary and he gave me the sweetest little card, that I'm like holding super dear to my heart, just like all the screenshots that I have, And so it's kind of like, just don't lose yourself as your relationship develops. You have to make note of the things that you were showing your partner when your partner fell in love with you, and just remain being that person. And that's why it's so important that you fall in love with another person that is not wearing any masks, because no mask is sustainable.
Yeah.
And so take all the masks, be vulnerable. If you like who you are, the other person is probably going to like who you are too. And with no mask, it is sustainable. Just keep being brave. Keep pushing to be like a person of essence, and the other person is going to continue to respect you, is going to continue to feel attracted, is going to continue to admire these qualities in you. And I find that that's one of the things that have helped us,
It's quite interesting just to say, I imagine like Iturralde brand and at the side we didn't imagine, but I suppose that it was like a little motor, like this brand with be brave, and this is kind of a little motor beside atrás, behind Esther y Brent, Well, Thank you so much, guys, for being vulnerable, for sharing this your history, for sharing your point of view. Is kind of interesting that what you give me to me today, because I like to have like a learning lesson of each interview that I made for the couples. Is like this kind of a vacation relationship, like it's easy. It's not, you don't have to, it's not to force it or need it. It's like easy. And the other thing is about like to find the balance and say to your ego, like you have to find the balance with the other person, and the other person has not to be like the same of you, because some of the time most of the people as I wanted a moment, it was like, I know I have to search for someone that has to be like the same hobbies, like the same things like me. And is all of the couples that I made the interview is not the case. They're totally different, totally different. So thank you so much, guys, for your time.